My father being a business owner, his own boss, and seeing his daughters who are also like, we're trying to create our own careers as a photographer, as a makeup artist, wanted to encourage his daughters to start their own business and be their own boss. And it turned into an art gallery that we never ever intended. And the whole, it completely switched over to where it's at now. But I'm lucky to have such an amazing father and family.
Can I interject here? Can we talk about your father now?
Sorry. Trying to say, my dad, like, he's done so much for not just me and my sister, my brother, but like just everyone. Like he wants to help everyone, and just he's such a good man. And in June, he started feeling sick in April. Like he started losing weight, but the end, like in June, he started getting tests, you know, more and more tests done because nobody was saying what it was that was giving him his stomach issues and stuff. And they said it was pancreatic cancer. And at the end of June, that there were spots in his lungs, and that's when a couple weeks later, they did the biopsy, and at the end of July is when he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. That was, you know, just a couple months ago. He's energized and so it's, you know, he's sick right now, obviously, and doing chemo. We just did our, I always say R because that's just like it, stage 3rd cycle of chemo yesterday, and in South Pass at City of Hope, which is great. It's just awful though. It's awful to, we called him the Energizer Bunny. Just this, go, 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 that's him. To have that taken away so quickly, of like his energy and his weight and everything, it's that's where we're at with him. And that's why, you know, it's Halloween is me and my dad. My mom, you know, she always said, she goes, I did Halloween, but I decorated for Halloween, but it was mainly for you and your dad. It's like, in the kids. And I'm like, my mom liked Halloween, okay? She did. But it was really like me and my dad, like when I moved into my apartment, like every year we would go to Stats, which was, it's closed now, but it was a big decorating Christmas Halloween store in Pasadena. So we would go to Stats and then he'd buy me a decoration every year. And so like he loves it. He loves the Halloween season. He loves the Haddonfield show. He loves seeing all these people come from all over the world. And they come into the gallery and they love it. And he sits on the porch and he like wears this like cheap mask. I don't even know where he got it. I think it's a Rob Zombie though, Halloween. And it's this hard mask, and he just sits there and he likes scaring people, and you know, he's a big guy, just full of life and like loving it. This year it's different, but that's why it's like there'd be no SugarMynt without my dad starting it, you know, for his daughters. Like, just fucked up, man. Shit's fucked up. It's really unfair for him, for all of us, but anyways. I worked at Sephora in Old Town Pasadena, and I didn't have a car, and I'd ride my bike. I'd take the train, go to Old Town, and I'd ride my bike home down Orange Grove. And then I would take my bike and go to the Myers house, and I would just cruise around it really quick and go home. So I wanted to find the filming locations, and I loved riding my bike around, especially South Pass during Halloween season, or just fall and Christmas. It was so beautiful. I just remember finding the Laurie Strode house by myself. And it's funny how everybody fixated on this stoop, right? I never even paid attention to that. I paid attention to the 2-car garage. I was looking around South Pass for the 2-car garage. I didn't want to look up the address. I knew I could find it. As well as the alley from the second one, that I couldn't find. But I'm riding down, and all of a sudden I'm passing the library, and I'm like, oh, there it is. And I go over and I look and I see a pumpkin sitting on the porch. And this was not fall. This was probably like June or like February even. And I was like, I found it. And I was just so excited that I found the Laurie Strode house, or the 2-car garage. 2-car garage. That's all I found. And I just loved that.
Hi, I'm Bianca Richards, and I used to live in the Laurie Strode house for 35 years.
How much did you know of the popularity of the home before you bought it?
That is always such an embarrassing story. I had never seen the movie Halloween. So I'm the same age as Jamie Lee Curtis. But I just wasn't into horror movies then. I just wasn't into horror movies. And so I never saw the movie, never. And so I would be out gardening, doing stuff outside. And this was pre-internet, pre-social media, pre-even cell phones. And I'd be out there gardening, and people would always occasionally come by, and they'd go really slow. They'd kind of walk by, and they had real cameras, and they would kind of take pictures, and I always think, I wonder, and I just thought, oh, there's something about this house. And then finally I said to somebody, I said, what is it about this house? I noticed people come by and take kind of pictures. And the people could not believe that I didn't know that the house had been in the movie Halloween. My husband and I, we immediately, and in South Pasadena, where all of this happened, right up the street from us they had to move out of the town too, a famous video store called Videotech. So we ran up to Videotech and we rented, and this is when VHS was still out, so DVDs weren't even around yet. We rented Halloween, and we thought, oh my God, the house was so prominent. The front door, when she walks, says goodbye to her dad. Her dad's parked in the driveway, sits there. Then the mystery was solved. Then we finally figured out why. And of course, I fell in love with the movie. I thought it was wonderful. And then it's so funny because I grew up, how I made my money was I was a babysitter, but I was never afraid. And so basically when people would tell me, well, what is Halloween about? I just say it's about a babysitter being terrorized mesmerized by a crazy person, but I said, it's a wonderful, wonderful movie. So we finally, saw the movie, and then I just decided to embrace it. I went out and bought a whole bunch of pumpkins. I made a plaque. I kept it outside, and then like when social media started in the year, in the 2000s, and it just started to spread, and then the fans knew that they could just come, take the pumpkin, go take a picture, and yeah, we just embraced it, and it just just grew and grew and grew, and that's that's kind of the story of the Laurie Strode house and us living there.
So this used to be, my location was this candy knickknack store that was here it was in South Pass for 40 years, and it was in this location for about, like 15 or so years, because 2015. So they were closing down, and my dad would shop here. My dad worked out across the street. He knew this family since, I was a kid. This store was around. And I grew up in Pasadena, and, so South Pass is right next to it. And my dad would shop here for my mom's Christmas presents and all that. And so when they were closing, my dad said, rent it to me and my daughters, because they didn't know what they were going to do with it yet. And I was a makeup artist for over 10 years before I started an art gallery. And my sister was also a photographer. So the whole point was my dad, who's a businessman, he, his family, but the family owns a hardware store. It's called Newland Hardware. It's in El Sereno. It's right down the street. That's how my parents met. It's because my mom grew up in El Sereno, which is one city over from South Pass. And so he does business, and that's what he wanted us to have our own business, but didn't really have. He's an ideas man, so that's what he says. And so he rented this space for us. We're very lucky and very fortunate to have a father who was willing to do that. And from there, it was almost like you're renting a house out that you could do your own art. I was supposed to bring in my clients or something. That's where the beginning concept was gonna be. My sister could have a room set up with her lighting and her stuff and all that, and then we'd have clients. And I knew somebody who worked in galleries and stuff, and I did my own art. And all of a sudden it turned into, we're doing an art gallery. It kind of just morphed into this thing. It's pretty bizarre. It's a bizarre story. I will say it's a little all over the place until I brought it together. So we got the place in 2015, beginning of 2015, opened in June of 2015 with the first contemporary art show. It was great. It was cool. It's not really me, but it was neat. It was a neat show. I just kind of went with it. I had zero idea on what was gonna happen. I had no freaking clue that this would happen to me. Nothing. This would never in a million years be something that could be possible. Because they were known for their candy, we wanted to pay homage to a business that has been around that long. So we went through all these names, and that's where sugar came from. And then it was like, what goes with sugar? It's not that great of a story. That's the only part. And then it was like, well, I like mint, so let's do the mint. And then I pushed the words together, SugarMynt, with 2 capitals, because that's SaraRose. So that's my little me in there. And then let's just do a Y because it's cool. And then there was all these other words, and I was like, SugarMynt Gallery.
And my sister lived in there for, that was her house. And then my mom had a gift and a candy store, and my sister moved out of the house. My mom then rented the house and turned it into a business. It was called Family Fare, a candy and gift store. My mom then retired, and then SaraRose's family, the Orlandini family, knew my family, and SaraRose then rented the house, and it was an art gallery because Sarah's an artist.
Her last name is Richards. Clara Richards, her mother owned Family Fare, which was the business here, for 40 years before. Her mother, so it all became intertwined. So a month after we opened, somebody came in and said, what are you gonna do? What's your plan? And I said, I don't know, because it was June, right? So this was July. I go, I don't know, but all I know is that's the Michael Myers house, and I want to do something with Halloween during the Halloween show. And he like freaks out, which I'm always used to people freaking out when they see, talk about the house and they didn't know. He goes, I know the producer. So within like 2 weeks, I got a meeting with the producer of the franchise. Malik introduced me to Kim Gottlieb Walker. Kim's the photographer who did all the behind the scenes photos from Halloween 1 and 2. That October, I had my first Halloween show. What the heck?
It's one of the few places where fans of Halloween and other films that people grew up with have a home.
I had all the behind the scenes photos by Kim in here our October 3rd, 2015 was my first Halloween show. I opened in June. Like, that's pretty rad.
It's a place where the art prints of the work that I did on Halloween and Halloween 2 are on display and for sale. And every once in a while she'll have these gatherings like on Halloween where I can go and meet the fans. And it's always such a pleasure. They're always so enthusiastic and love my work. It does wonders for my ego.
So it was really cool. And that was my first experience of seeing all these people walking by dressed as Michael, coming in as Michael, seeing them at the house. So anyways, after that first show, it was like, okay, cool, but I have to be a regular art gallery. So we had regular art shows.
And then Sarah used to do art shows. She had all kinds of stuff, but Sarah always had Halloween and the horror stuff on her mind.
That first year, in 2016, I met one of these artists who was in an exhibit that was curated by somebody else. Because I didn't know what curating, I didn't know how to do any of that. So we hired somebody to help with that. And then I knew how to hang everything and decorate. I did some really cool exhibits. And then by that time, I was curating all the shows. And I met really amazing people while doing the contemporary art. I am not bashing on it. I loved doing it. But I looked forward to one thing. All I wanted was Halloween. And April of 2018, I was in Hawaii and I told my mom, if things don't change, I'm closing after Christmas. I'm not happy. And I want to be financially stable. Like, what am I doing? I told my mom that. I said, I'm done if something changes. And then I got a phone call. You want to work together and do a collaboration for this Halloween? Boom. All of a sudden this sign comes in. This sign from the universe comes in that it's like, there you go. Let's go. And as it got closer and I really by June, I go, you know what? I'm done. I'm doing a Tim Burton show. I've always wanted to do it. I'm doing a Tim Burton show after this Halloween. This was Halloween 2018, but it was before it. And I go, I'm doing everything Halloween. I'm doing all pop culture now. I'm done. And if it fails, it fails. I gotta try because I don't like this. And that's all I want to do.
And then little by little, Sarah got away from doing some of the art stuff and just decided to just go full-blown Halloween horror. And then because she was right next to the Michael Myers house, one thing just led to another.
And 2018 hit. I made the cover of LA Times because Halloween 2018 came out. I got an interview for like, I don't really, I mean, you know, you guys are in here saying you want to do a documentary. I haven't told anyone. You know, it's not like I just like, okay, cool, let's just do it. So I get interviewed by LA Times, didn't tell anyone. And then I told my parents, and they call me like freaking out. They're like, it's the Dodgers, and then it's the Michael Myers house photo, and it says, for SaraRose Orlandini. Halloween is like every day or some crap. I was like, what the? But at the time too, I was like, I didn't really realize the importance when all of a sudden I'm getting calls from people, you know, she made the cover of LA Times. You're like, is that a big deal? Like, you know, you just don't click. And that's when it really started snowballing into something great.
And Sarah is now queen of South Pasadena, and has really drawn so much attention to South Pasadena and SugarMynt Gallery and everything Halloween, and welcome to, you know, Haddonfield.
That's also the year I started charging admission to enter the Halloween show, and then started charging admission going forward. And that's when I was able to financially be stable, like crazy.
The first time I ever stepped foot in this gallery was 2018. It was during a Halloween show, and that was the first time I actually participated in it. I did a little Jamie on a knife, and that's what I had. That was the first knife that I ever sold in here. I've been coming here ever since. It's anytime I'm in town, I come here to visit, come here to showcase. Sarah's been a really good friend for a long time. You know, I met her at a convention, I want to say that summer before, and that's when she invited me.
And I got to start creating sets and making things spooky all the time. And so I did that Tim Burton show, which I got to paint the wall black and white stripes, and I got to do everything. Like, I got Jack tattooed on me. I love Tim.
Around 2018, I was doing quite a bit of showing in Los Angeles, and a friend of mine who's also an artist was going to show here at SugarMynt, and so he recommended me to Sarah. The first show that I participated in was in November of 2018, and it was a Tim Burton exhibit. It was great. So I did Frankenweenie and the kitty, and I did a piece from The Headless Horseman. And when I came in and talked to Sarah, I was so excited because she is a lot like me. We get very, very enthusiastic about whatever we're working on. So I felt like she was kind of a kindred spirit, and we just started making all kinds of crazy plans. And she was willing to go along with all my crazy plans, so what's not to like?
I met William Sandell. His name, we call him Bill, but William Sandell was the production designer for Hocus Pocus. So he told me he was a production designer, and I was like, he says he has the book still and all this stuff. He loves Halloween. Bill loves Halloween. So we clicked right away, and we became instant friends. He showed me all these concept drawings, and again, I love concept drawings. Love Disney concept drawings. I've just always been into that too. Now, I have prints of the original concept drawings from Hocus Pocus signed by Giacomo Giazza, who was the illustrator from the film. How cool is that? Not only that, we have the book from Hocus Pocus here, like the book. It was 2019, I did the Hocus Pocus exhibit with Bill, and it was a full Hocus Pocus show, which we will totally do again. That was great. And I had, Bill got like the makeup artist and the, you know, all these people in, and the producer, and it was like really like Tony Gardner, David Kirshner, Mick Garris, Giacomo, Bill, I think that was the photo, are all in here, and it was just incredible. And then it just kind of grew from there, and we started doing pop-ups in the backyard, and that's when I started getting known. I did what I love. I said, screw it, I'm doing Halloween every day. If I fail, I fail. And guess what? That's when it became successful. That's when SugarMynt Gallery it started to get a reputation of Halloween. And I call everything Halloween, by the way. Halloween is a like genre box of spooky, horror, and pumpkins. Because I love pumpkins. I love everything black and orange. That's just me. Fall leaves, everything. I love it. It makes me very, very happy. So in the pandemic, everything closed, right? Obviously, we all know that. The pandemic really closed everything from March to June.
We put together a Stephen King tribute, and then COVID started. And the lockdown started right as the show opened. So nobody really knew how to handle things yet. Everything was still kind of unsure, so it was really challenging. We made up games and did online stuff on Instagram and just tried to get people interactive with a new kind of format. And the show actually went really well. We were really happy with it.
In June, stores could start opening up, and like people could have restaurants outside, right? Well, I have a backyard. I have a space where people can do the same thing. So I started screening movies Wednesday through Sunday, all summer long, and from June of 2020 all the way through Halloween, I was just screening movies. That's all just admission. I then became financially stable through those screenings and everything. That's how it became, it was very beneficial to me. Like some businesses, I was lucky.
When I made this plaque and the pumpkins putting out the pumpkins for the fans, what I did is I got this big basket and I would just pile pumpkins into a basket and put it on the front porch with a little plaque that said, yes, this is the Laurie Strode house where the original Halloween was filmed. And I said, you know, you're welcome to borrow the pumpkin, take a picture, have fun, please return the pumpkin. So this was a plaque that I made up with this big, huge basket. And then fans would drop souvenirs, thank you letters into this basket. And of course I saved everything and made a scrapbook.
Bianca kept everything people left her from fans all the years.
And so many of the fans thanked Ron and I, and they would leave us wonderful thank yous that it made their trip when they could take a picture of themselves with the pumpkin.
Everything that had to do with Halloween in South Pass, she kept it and made it into this. Like, there's the cover of LA Times we were on. She kept everything, including all of my flyers and articles that I haven't even seen. Like, I've never even seen this article before. When I opened in 2015, I went to her house and I left her a note that said, I wanted to give you a personal invite to our show. This was in 2015, so I would have used Exhibit now, but we have original artist proofs of your house. I'd love for you to see. I picked these out personally. Please come October 3rd, SaraRose. She kept my note, which I was like, oh my God, I totally remember writing that.
SaraRose left a little note that she was opening up SugarMynt Gallery, and she's going to concentrate and kind of focus on Halloween because she was next to the Michael Myers house, and she wanted to introduce us to her. And then so she left this little note, and I believe it was an invitation to go to her open house.
Bianca came that Halloween, and that's when I first met her.
And so of course Ron and I went to the opening. We met SaraRose and we just hit it off we just hit it off, and we just became friends. And of course, but she knew my sisters and my family. I had never met SaraRose until she left the little fan notice to come to her open house. And then Sarah would, every time that she had an art opening, she made up these really, really cool flyers and postcards. And then she'd always come down to the house, give me a huge stack of them. And then I'd leave them there for the fans. And the fans loved them. They would take them as a souvenir. So it was kind of good. They would have a little souvenir, but I would make sure all the fans would go to SugarMynt Gallery to patronize her place. And then of course to see the Michael Myers house.
This was the basket that she'd leave on her porch for fans and like literally gave them that you can sit on the stoop. Yes, this is the Laurie Strode house. Yes, this is the house of Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween 1970. She laminated this and put it in a basket with a pumpkin all year round for fans to walk up, take, and sit on her stoop. How amazing is that?
Because the fans, they just enjoyed it. I mean, when they tell you about coming from all over the world, just to sit down on that stoop with the pumpkin, how could you be upset or be a Grinch who stole their Halloween? So we were okay with it. People from Germany, Japan, France, Australia, people from all over the world made a trek. We rented the house, so we did not own the house, everybody. We just rented the house for 35 years. When we got the notice that we had to move, that the original owners of the house, and the original owners of the house, that house has been in that family almost 100 years. And so we rented that house 35 of those years that we lived in that house. So when we got the notice that we had to leave, it was pretty crushing. I cried for a week, and I remember going up to SugarMynt Gallery and telling SaraRose, and SaraRose and I cried, hugged each other and cried, hoping that the new owners of the house would embrace Halloween like Ron and I embraced Halloween.
We opened in 2015, our first Halloween exhibit in 2015. I met Chris Gomez, and it was really cool because I feel like he was one of the first people that I really clicked with as a cosplayer.
Hi, my name is Christopher Gomez, and once in a while I cosplay as the Michael Myers from Halloween 6 at SugarMynt's various events. So I first moved out to Burbank in 2015, and I had known about the South Pasadena area for decades. Back in 2003, my friends and we filmed our own Halloween fan film in South Pasadena. And in 2015, I told some of my childhood friends, hey, we should meet up in South Pasadena so I can show you where they filmed the first 2 movies. So we get to the Myers house, and we notice that the house behind the Myers house, which used to be a candy store and gift shop, had all these fall decorations for the season. And we noticed that there was some Michael Myers memorabilia, around the window. And we said to my friends, oh, what's going on here? Let's check this out. So we go in, and by coincidence, that was the same year that they first opened. And the first person that I met was Sarah. She, introduced herself. She was very kind, very open. She told us what her operation was about, that she was exhibiting the work of local artists in the area. And we were just so, we would literally were like kids in candy stores, just, you know, marveling at all of the Michael Myers Halloween stuff. And, you know, it's kind of cool that someone was utilizing the area to emphasize that, yeah, this is where the first two movies were shot. And so I took you know, by coincidence, I happened to have one of my Michael Myers, my jumpsuit with me, because later on, my friends and I, we were going to go to the hedge and take a picture of me standing behind the classic hedge. So I already had the costume with me in the trunk, and I got to take a photo with Sarah.
We took this, you know, this great photo that's, if you even Google SugarMynt Gallery, that's one of the ones that pops up. So it's always really cool that it was on there. You know, we'd become close, and now we do Halloween walking tours, and he's my guide, he's the Halloween tour guide, and that's really fun. So we're doing those throughout the year, but mainly during Halloween is when we do them.
So if you're curious about that, feel free to reach out to her Instagram or her website to inquire about walking tours, and I will be your friendly neighborhood tour guide. And since 2015, I've been frequently visiting that gallery every October.
The first time that I went to the SugarMynt, I saw it on Instagram, and Sarah had a thing out for, if you dress as Michael Myers, just go ahead and show up and you would get free admission. So I went there as Michael at one point.
When I met Rob through some other people that invited cosplayers to an event, a pop-up that we had, and then I got to know him, and like, he was just such a mega fan, and like came from Vegas to here, and like I would invite him to like, do you want to be a Michael, like one of the main Michaels, just to have like, because we get people all the time, they come in, like I don't necessarily have to like hire a Michael during the Haddonfield show, just because they come, like, and I want to make sure that there's a bunch. But then it was kind of neat to have like one person that can go behind the scene that I know, and it's like go in the back room and like hide or like whatever, and they had more ability to roam around.
To me, I think that's like the great thing, that you get to interact with the guests and have fun with them while they're enjoying, you know, everybody else's artwork, everybody else's sculptures.
I felt really comfortable with him, and he was very kind, and then he would go over to the house and like take photos with people, and it was really cool.
We love SugarMynt Gallery. It's like one of those places where we go and we feel like, yeah, we're right at home here. I first learned about SugarMynt Gallery many years ago. Actually, it'd be really difficult for me to pinpoint the exact year. I want to say it was something like 2017 or something like that. But anyway, the reason I found out about it is because they're located near the Myers house in South Pasadena. And we go to that area every Halloween night, every year, and we walk around, and my wife hands out candy while I roam the streets dressed as Michael Myers, and people get a big kick out of it because the area that we're in. But we had seen, I think, the gallery behind the Myers house, and we kind of wondered about it, but we didn't really investigate it. And then the next fall, she held her Welcome to Haddonfield art exhibit. It might have been the second one, if I recall correctly, but when I heard that she was doing this exhibit, I actually reached out to her through, I believe, Instagram, and offered her my services as the shape for that evening. I said I'd love to come and entertain your guests. And at the time, my wife was cosplaying as Linda Vanderklok, and my friend Ashley was cosplaying as Lori for certain events. And I don't think they did that with me the first year, but I think the second year they joined me as Linda and Lori, and basically I worked the event every year that I could.
I've met cosplayers, but you know, I normally like talk to the people first and like get to know them. And when I met him, he came in, I didn't even know it was him. Like, he came in like hardcore Michael, like no talking, like I had no clue. And like, honestly, I found it like, I was like, he didn't even say hi, like a little insulting, not knowing like that some people are that way. And then I like got to talk to him more, and I've, you know, realized he was like a really cool person and that he's dedicated. And I was like, oh, okay, so it's not personal, like he didn't want to talk to me. And I was like, okay, that's cool.
At this point, a bunch of different Michael Myers cosplayers usually show up for the event, so it's not like she even really needs me to be there, but it's very nice that she always welcomes me and lets me have free roam of the place and allows me to entertain the guests. Now it's kind of an annual tradition. My wife bakes pumpkin spice flavored cookies and takes them to Sarah, and my wife shapes them like the infamous Halloween jack-o'-lantern here. And, you know, she makes little Michael Myers cookies too and takes them to Sarah, and Sarah's always like, oh, they're so good.
And getting close to him and his wife, Jen, are like, they're just the greatest. And then they make me these delicious cookies, and I'm a cookie monster. So I'm always like thinking about them. I'm like, you want to come and like, you know, bring me some cooks? And they're always so cute. And I definitely like offer them to some people, and then at night I'm like, take them home and just eat them in bed by myself. It's really great. They're such good people.
You know, we've become good friends with Sarah because of the art exhibit event that, you know, I work, and also because she has a lot of other pop-ups that, you know, she'll say, hey, can you come be Myers for this event or that event? Or, you know, she has these movie screenings in the backyard sometimes that we attend, and, you know, we've just kind of gotten to know her a little bit and become friends over the years, and it's been really nice. It's a nice relationship.
It's been really amazing to meet such amazing fans of spooky stuff and like the Halloween franchise and like just horror in general and like Halloween in general. And like throughout the years seeing like return customers. Throughout the years, like getting to the point where we would charge admission after a certain point has helped. Like that's how we've stayed afloat, and to see people who came from the beginning to now and they're willing to support the gallery, and you know, and if it's more expensive during a certain time, they come back every year, and they come once a year or they come throughout the year, and you know, they'll come to movie nights, and there's the return customers or just people who've never come in before or just find us. A lot of people just find us because they're visiting the house and they're like, what's this?
It attracts people from all over the world because people come to see the Myers house, and it's like a pilgrimage when they discover that behind the Myers house is SugarMynt Gallery.
And they just come in with the light in their eyes, and it's like so special. And then they know the gallery in general, and you're like, wow. Like, it still shocks me when people are like, I've wanted to come here. I'm like, you know, like, it's like, it's so cool. Like, it just kind of makes you blush a little, or makes me blush a little, and like, kind of like, thanks. Like, and I'm like, you gotta be like more, thank you, like, you know, and not, I don't know, try not to be shy about it.
And it has all of these wonderful, you know, pictures and art, and is such a lovely gathering place.
I'm really honored and so grateful to the customers and the fans and just anyone who comes and supports the gallery. You know, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. So thank you.
The first thing that really struck me was just like what a quaint little neighborhood it was in. Of course, it's this like kind of nondescript little house that's been converted into a gallery. And the second thing was, and we pretty quickly got a tour from SaraRose, the owner there, how I found out just how much movie history is right there in and around the neighborhood. You know, of course, Halloween is the big claim to fame when it comes to the SugarMynt, but there were a whole lot of other movies that were filmed right there in that part of Pasadena, which I had found really interesting. And then, of course, the amazing thing is that the Myers house itself got relocated right next to the gallery, which is pretty amazing. What I really liked about it was just how it is just covered from floor to ceiling in all sorts of amazing art, all done in different styles and genres and different mediums, and how she's really created a place where artists who might not necessarily get their works looked at, a place for them to display and also sell their art if they were so inclined to do so. And of course, just like the sheer number of Halloween like memorabilia and things that she has on hand as well is pretty phenomenal. And what just a great place for horror fans to come together, not just to watch movies or celebrate horror and spooky things, but to actually celebrate the kind of art that can be created from being a fan of these sorts of horror and spooky subgenres.
I didn't actually get to go to the SugarMynt Gallery until about 2020, so I had all this anticipation. And when I finally got to go, it was All Hallows Eve, which a very appropriate night to go. It was just amazing because we got to see a screening of Trick or Treat right on site. And I just remember that night being like a chilly SoCal weather night with like leaves on the ground. So it was just like all the feels of like the perfect All Hallows Eve night. And then to walk through the SugarMynt and have it have, you know, memorabilia and art exhibits from Halloween was just like a perfect first time experience being there. So having not gone to the SugarMynt for so long, even though it was like on my like bucket list of things to do when I first moved here, so to have that prolonged and finally get to go with that anticipation, it definitely didn't disappoint.
I first discovered the SugarMynt Gallery, I say back in 2017, actually through social media. I wasn't aware of the actual gallery until then, so I planned a day trip to go up there and didn't realize it was actually behind the Myers house. And for a long time as a kid, I had no idea that all these film locations were actually here in Southern California. As an adult, that's when I discovered that. And so I had an interest to go check out the SugarMynt. I'm like, okay. And you pull up to this iconic neighborhood and you see the tiny little house. In the movies, it looks so, you know, it just looks so overwhelming and just ominous. And you get there, it's this tiny little house, but behind it, you see this porch with decor and the doors open and it's welcoming. And as I'm walking up to the steps, you hear the score, John Carpenter's score to the movie playing. And there's this tiny little person working there. And it was SaraRose at the time. And it was just a trip to see all the artwork, the actual like film photos of the actual set, and all the artwork she had and things from the movie. She had a passion, not only for like the area or for the homes, but the actual film. And just really, really, really warm person, friendly, and just let me freely kind of walk around and just take everything in. Now to find like this this house that's like, you know, pays homage to all of us, this Halloween freaks, to this movie, and you can actually take in the history of the movie and the lore. And I'm like, wait a minute, the other film locations are walking distance? And that's where Sarah just kind of like, okay, and that's where she shared all this information with me. And from there, I've been a fan since, and I've been there multiple times.
One thing that we discovered when we first moved in here is that the gallery is definitely haunted. And if anyone knows, if you change around a house or if a new person comes in and it's already haunted, the ghosts really become active. And this was kind of a big change. So in the hallway closet was so heavy. My sister wouldn't even walk in that. She's like, I'm not going to the bathroom in there. I'm like, you have no choice. But at night is when he really comes out. My desk was right in the front room at that time. It was right up here. And it was like 9:30 at night and I was doing some work. So we were closed and everything. And all of a sudden, I just started feeling scared, and I already knew it was haunted, like from us. Like no one's told us this. This is what we know. Like the other people who've been here, they don't say that. Like I've met other people who've owned the place, they don't feel that. I'm up here doing some work, and then all of a sudden I started I'm like, it's in your head, it's in your head. And it was like the ghost came out of the hallway and was up against the back wall, walking over, and I felt this like get out wave of energy just blow at me. And I mean, I got lightheaded and I just ran out the front door. And this girl walked by who worked at the time it was Buster's, now it's Jones Coffee. And she actually came inside with me to help me like turn off the lights. I literally was like, okay, the gallery's haunted, and it's just like, this is what just happened. And I go, will you walk in with me and like help me? I turned off all the lights with her. We walked out. In 2021, we turned one of the rooms into an Airbnb, and that's the area that's haunted. So they get to have this own little private section, like when we're open, and then when we close, we lock out they can't come into the main gallery. We close it off. So they have a private entrance and exit, and people stay, and we've heard stories of them like saying like the hallway light has turned on. And for me, I've experienced more of like a staring, like just someone watching you, and you're like, can you not? And it does, it's pretty frightening, especially at night. Like around 10 o'clock is when he comes out. That's what I say. It's like, I'm always like, okay, time to go. And they're spending the night back there, so it's a little spooky.
One of the most inspiring things about having shows curated by Sarah is that I'm constantly watching movies, and I have since childhood. They raised me, and it gives me an opportunity to use the frame of the show to go back to revisit some of the movies that really shaped me as a person and that I have a lot of nostalgia for, and look into what I can paint that isn't necessarily as obvious, like something that somebody that really loves the movie would know is from that movie, but somebody that might not have seen, let's say, Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something, that when they see the painting, it's not obvious, but the fans of the movie can get a sense, a feeling from it, or some sort of nostalgia of their own from it. And I really appreciate that this gallery has given me that box to kind of frame what I want to paint in. And I end up painting like 6 or 7 paintings every time, just because I get so excited. And there's so many things that I want to paint within the frame of the show, and it always ends up being a really fun experience.
One of my favorite things about SugarMynt is how many mediums come into this gallery. It's part of the gallery, part of the enjoyment of this gallery is that you can get really close to stuff. My husband is legally blind. He's also an artist, but he's legally blind, so he can take his glasses off and stick his face right up to stuff and look at it. And you can't do that in most galleries, but there's so many sculptures, and there's like art made out of wood, and people putting together pictures that are part TV and part painting, and I just love that. My particular art style, I'm a textile artist, and so I take upholstery vinyl and I cut it up with an X-Acto blade, and then I have a great big industrial sewing machine with like an 18-inch throat. So I shove it through and push things through the sewing machine and then put it all up. And I do stencils and all kinds of different things. So my art style is really kind of specific. So specific collectors are very interested in it, but it's not something that you would just go and see like a gallery just full of paintings. There's so many different things here to look at, and a lot of it even has like doors that open, and just things are happening everywhere. And in a gallery that's has kind of a more spooky sensibility, having things that have a lot of movement and like just make shadows, and there's eyeballs looking at you everywhere. It's really kind of takes you over when you come in here. You feel like you're part of something that's kind of spooky and fun. She kept asking me to be in shows, thankfully. And I kept doing them, and every time I would come up with a crazy idea, she was down for it. So then, right when those moments when artists get discouraged are amazing, because that's when Sarah asked me if I wanted to do a solo show. And I did. I did a show that was about sympathetic monsters, and it came together pretty fast, and I ended up selling everything except one piece. So I was really, really happy with that show, and I think Sarah was too.
We do all different exhibits throughout the year, just different varieties of spooky stuff. And like some of my favorite ones I've done, I loved my Dexter exhibit, probably one of my favorite ones. I was watching the show, which I like to watch every so often, and I was like, oh my God, I can make the back room into the kill room. And I made the whole kill room myself, and like plastic everywhere, and then blood everywhere, and there was Dexter on the table, wrapped up dead body in plastic. It was so cool, and I handmade like my own blood slides. I did a whole blood slide box where people could touch it, and like knives and everything where people could play. It was so freaking cool.
I participated in the Dexter show. It was the first time I had ever painted with blood on glass.
And then we even had some props from it as well, like his bowling shirt. We had all this really cool stuff. And that was a show that I was really, really proud of. Like I loved my Hocus Pocus exhibit that we did in, it was May of 2019. Like a full exhibit dedicated to Hocus Pocus was what I would say is the real jumping point into Everyday's Halloween, like my switch over. And then like my Haunted Haddonfield exhibit, I did it in 2020. It was like the Halloween mashup, my first one, which I want to do again this year. But that one was really cool. And I was really proud of that because I wanted to make it like a spooky attic, you know, like a haunted house, but you go into the attic and all the cool stuff that was there. Is my favorite exhibit. And that was actually when we got on the Netflix show, that was the first time Nick Castle came in, and on that episode, you see Nick walking around and stuff, and that was during my Haunted Haddonfield exhibit, which was so cool.
I've been there since 2015 to see it grow into this gallery where they've, extended their, their exhibits. To the point where she's even had so many people involved in the movies come to visit her gallery.
Nick Castle said we should have a wall of fame, and then he signed the wall, which you can insert. My vampire exhibit I did in beginning of 2023 was another one that I really wanted to make.
I also really loved being a part of the vampire show in 2023, February of 2023. I think I did six paintings for that one, and one of my favorite parts of doing that one was to spread the word about some of the lesser seen vampire movies that I personally love so much, like Herzog's Nosferatu.
I'm a huge vampire fan, so to do and build, just make it really romantic and beautiful, that was a really, really cool one. So I like to do other things outside of, the Halloween movies and throughout the year, but keeping it in a spooky vibe, because it's fun.
My first meeting of Sarah was actually for one of her very first pop-ups, or the very first pop-up I went to. I had found out about it on TikTok, and I just decided all my friends were busy, so I decided to come by myself. Came by myself. I briefly met Sarah, but that's when I started following the gallery. Eventually, Sarah had posted on the story that she was looking to hire someone. I was very unhappy at my previous job,
So I decided to just send her a message, and it all aligned in that she hired me. I got hired in March of 2022. I became one of a sales associate for SugarMynt. Eventually, I got hired as everything. But when you work for SugarMynt, you don't just work for Sarah, you actually end up working for her whole family.
You know, the more that I got to know them, the more they just made me feel like family. Anytime I was around, they always remembered, they remember birthdays, they remember how your kid is doing, anything that's going on. It really is a family environment.
And one of the very first family members that I met of Sarah was John Orlandini.
Man, Pops. He was the best. He was the one guy that I looked forward to seeing every time I came in here. He introduced me to so many of the artists. And if I didn't know an artist, he'd be like, hey, I gotta introduce you to somebody. You know, and he bought one of my favorite pieces that I had in the show. And it was just like, anytime that I got to sit and talk with him, we'd have drinks together. And it was just like, you could just see directly into him that he was so happy and loved this place and Sarah.
John was a very important person to SugarMynt. He made SugarMynt what it is. He gave SugarMynt to Sarah. And SugarMynt wouldn't be what it is without John.
You know, he was the godfather of this place. You couldn't beat. He always had a smile on his face, always wanted to talk to everybody, introduced, you know, he would stare at artwork for the longest time, and then if he wasn't done staring at it, he'd go and grab somebody, bring them over, and stare at it with him. And, you know, he always wanted to know why you did it and introduce everybody else to that piece.
And John was just always so supportive. He had a real knack of understanding what you needed to hear and making you feel comfortable and really happy.
He was a dad, so cue in the dad jokes, cue in the fatherly instincts of bringing us lunch on random days, or when Sarah wasn't even here, we would be sharing zucchini bread from Green Street because he was the only one that liked it with me. Every day we were open, he was here. He would stop on by just to joke around that he was a customer and just taunt me. He would come in and give the best tour guides to the customers that were coming in.
So the day that John passed, I live in Northern California. I'd come down to go out to lunch with Sarah and, you know, just kind of see how she was doing. And that morning she said, I can't meet you because it looks like this is the time. So she was at the hospital. So I came by the gallery. I had some pieces to drop off anyway. And Rosie was here, like she always is, and we were chatting. And that's when we heard that John passed.
John meant a lot to everyone here. And there isn't a day that goes by that I don't look outside and wonder if his car is gonna pull up and just, I'm gonna hear him say, is anyone out? Are you guys open today?
I was glad I could be here for Rosie. I felt really helpless. You know, you feel really just at a loss. Just such a tremendous guy. I could hardly believe he was gone. And then on the way back home, I stopped at a gas station and Sarah called me and we cried and cried and cried. And yeah, I obviously still cry when I think about it.
Even now without him, we still do everything in his memory.
He is such a big part of this place. He's here. And there's no way he would leave his family. You know, he's here.
You know, since his passing, you definitely tell he's still in here. I mean, I always wave at the front porch because he sat there. You know, he loved seeing everybody there. You know, any show, he was on the front porch at first. Then he would always come into the show everybody everything. But it was, yeah, that was rough not seeing him here the first exhibit. But anytime I walk by, I always wave at the front porch.
Hold on. No one's like my dad. He died on January 27th after, you know, battling with pancreatic cancer for, I mean, it was only 7 months, man. And I'm so happy he's out of pain and he doesn't have to get poked and prodded and chemo and all that stuff. We're all happy that he doesn't have to do that, but it's just, it's never gonna be the same, you know? And I know a lot of people have lost their fathers and family and everything, but SugarMynt is me and my dad, and I wouldn't have it. No one would have it if it wasn't for my dad supporting and believing. And no one was here for me. Who all came to every event, passing out wine and like just being so Italian. He's so Italian. Always wanting to take care of people and just, you know, feed them. When the first 2 trailers for the documentary came out, he got to see those. And we didn't know he was gonna pass that week. It was pneumonia that got him. So stupid. It wasn't even the cancer, it was the pneumonia. Like, I hate that. It happens a lot, but it's very frustrating, especially because it was getting stable. I wanted to show him some clips, but unfortunately I wasn't able to. But I know when I showed him this, the first, in October, when I showed him the first trailer, you know, he's a businessman, so you got to get that out there, and how are you going to do it? You need to, people need to see this, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, can you just watch it and just be present? Like, too much pressure. Like, it was always like that. It's like, he just, like, his brain was just business, so he just went. And so he was really excited about this, and I know my dad is with me, and I know, like, I've already had signs, and like, he's in the room right now. Like, he's the new ghost of the gallery, man. He loves scaring people, and now you're gonna be at the Airbnb and he's gonna be like, what can I do? You know, this last Halloween, which is my last Halloween with my dad. We couldn't find his, like, silly Michael Myers mask. I found it after he passed, and I kind of, like, I wish I, like, looked harder, you know, but it's okay. But I found it, and he loved to, like, he'd sit on the porch. It was just so silly. I wish I brought it, but, and he would just scare people. Such a silly mask. He just liked it because you don't have to put it over your head. I still don't know where he got this. Like, where did you find this mask? And, you know, that was his, it was like his signature, and he'd wear these specific couple Halloween shirts that he'd have. But he always sat on the porch and just watching people go by, and when he'd see it, he'd put it down. And then like sometimes he'd go over to the house and there's this great photo. He was just like watching, you know, and I'd think it would like people would find the mask like super stupid or something, and no one would want photos with them. And they were taking photos in front of the house, and they literally like, will you take a photo? And he like had this knife and he stood up there, and it's like this great shot of him up there, and they're like, you know, all scared, and it's so silly. Like, people still love it. It doesn't matter what Michael Myers mask you have. If you're wearing a Michael mask here and some fan sees it, they're gonna freak out. Like, you don't have to have a perfect mask. And like, my dad's mask was so silly and people loved it. So every time somebody would come in with one, he would put it on and want a photo with them and stand. It was so cute. So when you walk by, you just wave to us on the porch. Just, he's on the porch, especially during the Halloween exhibit. He will always be sitting there, loving every single person who came by, wanting to know everything. He's just always here. So if you met him, if you met my dad, you know how wonderful. And if you weren't able to, when you come in here, he's here and he's asking you, where are you from? And he's gonna listen in on your conversations and, you know, like, oh, cool. You know? So, and he appreciated every single person as much as me, if not even more. So, thank you. I love you, Dad. I can't believe you're gone.
Actually, the city of South Pasadena recognized SaraRose a plaque and an award that she's brought, you know, the best publicity to South Pasadena because of the movie Halloween and all of her love of horror. And I just think, you know, SaraRose is just wonderful. She has the best personality, wonderful enthusiasm, and she has really good art shows, and she's kept Halloween alive. And I'm so glad that Ron and I were a part of the history of the Halloween franchise and SaraRose.
Yeah, over the years, my working relationship with Sarah has grown to the point where she reached out to me to do walking tours this October. Yeah, I just want to thank her for the opportunity to be able to do that, to be able to you know, partake in something that I love. And I'm glad that we have people like Sarah that cater to not only local artists, but to horror fans as well.
Thank you, Sarah, for opening up your doors to your business and just giving us all a little taste of horror history and making our spooky hearts a little happier.
Sarah, thank you for bringing people together in this community, not only the film community, but the haunt and horror community, to this magical little art gallery that you created. It's behind an iconic house. You just rekindled my childhood. Thank you.
Thank you, SugarMynt Gallery, for creating a place for those of us to come and appreciate what is honestly some of the beauty that goes into the work of creating horror movies.
It actually did change my life to be a part of showing here. It's opened up not only new doors, but also in building my own confidence as an artist and being asked to come back, and I'm so, so grateful.
So I'm very grateful to SaraRose for giving me an outlet for my work, and she's just a lovely person.
You know, Sarah basically helped me kind of get the door open as far as me living an off-role presence as Michael.
It's cool that she supports independent artists and people who are really expressing themselves through their art, and incorporates our shared love of this incredible horror film that really kind of revolutionized horror in a way, and makes that such a big part of what she does.
I'd just like to say, thank you to Sarah. SugarMynt has been a huge staple in my artistic world.
Hi, Sarah. I want to thank you for everything you've done for me. But not even just for me, for artists, for fans, for everyone that you meet in your life. You're an influence to them all. I know losing your dad was pretty hard this year, but I know you carry him with you because I see it. Every day I go into work and you carry him with you. I know he'd be extremely proud. And we all are of you. You're doing it.
Sarah, I love you so much. You are not just a gallery owner, you're one of my best friends. And I would not be where I am without you. So I really appreciate you. And I love your family, I love you, and here's to many more years.